Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, yai, lai, lai, lai.
Shana Tova, Gemar Chatima Tova. May we all be inscribed for a year of blessing and goodness and health and peace in this year ahead. So as they say, man plans and God laughs. Everything that we had put together to make sure that we started on time tonight didn't exactly happen that way. We apologize for the delay. And we understand there are some technical difficulties that are outside of our control. Nothing that's happening here at Shir Me, but we apologize for those who perhaps began tonight with a little bit of frustration and anxiety just trying to log on. But hopefully by now, whether you are on our stream spot or on Facebook or some other platform, we hope that you can join us and can experience the fullness of this Kol Nidrei service. Let's take a deep breath as we settle in. So just a couple of notes. Again, our intent is that we are either on live stream or Facebook Live. Tomorrow we'll also be using Zoom, so hopefully all of these platforms will be working for us. We created a service tonight that, like last week, features many of the high points of our High Holy Day services. Tonight especially, I think you'll be very pleased that we were able to bring in Jason Calloway, our cellist, who has been playing Kol Nidrei with us for over 25 years. We were able to have him recorded down in Florida, so that will be a part of our service, as well as some pre-recorded pieces from our choir that we'll share a little bit later as well. So we invite you to make yourselves comfortable. Make sure the heat is, or the air conditioning is appropriate in your home. Again, don't blame us for that one. As we continue our service on page 17. Page 17 if you have the Yom Kippur Machzor at home. Rabbi David Stern writes, in its emphasis on humility, Kol Nidrei provides a corrective to the toxic certainties of polarized discourse. What if we approached each other with the humility to recognize that our most confident convictions will always be qualified by the limits of our own knowledge and understanding? In its haunting melody and strangely legalistic language, we begin to sense the twilight truth. Our high horses too often stumble, and our soapboxes stand on shaky ground. Kol Nidrei grants us the gift of sacred uncertainty, the chance to begin this new year with a sense of what we do not know, rather than a narrow certainty about what we do. It's what Buddhists call beginner's mind. What if every time I were ready to proclaim some self-evident truth, I allowed Kol Nidrei to whisper in my ear, says who? Page 16.
Oh
With one voice, assembled sages, past and present, declare, all may pray as one on this night of repentance. Let none be excluded from our community of prayer. With one voice, God and congregation proclaim, all may pray as one on this day of return. Let all find a place in this sacred assembly. As we prepare to remove a Sefer Torah from the Ark, our Kol Nidrei tonight will look different, but will sound very similar. We don't have our president's procession and our board members here in the front. However, they are all featured in a photo montage that will accompany Jason Calloway's playing of Kol Nidrei. So as I represent our community of leaders by holding one Sefer Torah, Cantor Kolbrenner will first chant some of Kol Nidrei, and then immediately afterwards, we will hear the playing of Kol Nidrei by Jason Calloway. I invite you to please stand in your homes as I remove the Sefer Torah from the Ark.
Kol Nidrei v'sarei v'charamei v'konamei v'chinuyei v'kinusei u'shavuot din darna udeish tebana udeacharimna vedasana anashatana miyom kippurim zeh ad yom kippurim haba aleinu l'tova kulhani charadna v'hon kulhan yehon shiran shvikin shevitin betelin umevutalin la shiririn v'la kayamin nidrana la nidrei v'esarana la esar Shavuatana Washivu
continue on page 19. Let our speech be pure and our promises sincere. Let our spoken words, every vow and every oath, be honest and well-intentioned. Let our words cause no pain, bring no harm, and never lead to shame, distrust, or fear. And if, after honest effort, we are unable to fulfill a promise, a vow, or an oath, may we be released from its obligation and forgiven for our failure. Let our speech be pure and our promises sincere. All this shall be forgiven, the entire community of Israel and the stranger who lives in their midst, for all who have gone astray in error. Moses prayed to God, "As you have been faithful to this people ever since Egypt, please forgive their failings now, in keeping with your boundless love." V'sham ne'amar, Vayomer Adonai salachti kidvarecha, and God responded, "I forgive as you have asked." Please rise for Baruch Hu.
We pause in reverence before the gift of self. The vessel shatters, the divine spark shines through, and our solitary self becomes a link in Israel's golden chain. For what we are by sharing, and as we share, we move toward the light.
We pause in reverence before the mystery of a presence, the near and far reality of God. Not union, but communion is our aim, and we approach the mystery with deeds. Words lead us to the edge of action, but it is deeds that bring us closer to the God of light.
We pause in terror before the human deed, the cloud of annihilation, the concentrations for death, the cruelty, casual way of each to each. But in the stiffness of this hour, we find our way from darkness into light.
May we find our life so precious that we cannot but share it with the other, that light may shine brighter than 1,000 suns with the presence among us of the God of light.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kivod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Please be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher Hotzeiti Etchem Me'eretz Mitzrayim, Lechiot Lachem Le'elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Adonai Elohechem Emet. Page 38. Truth and faith, these are fundamental to our existence. God alone is their source, and we are Israel, a people of God. Our sovereign saves us from tyranny, redeems us from its violence through countless wonders, from its brutality through great feats beyond measure. We are Israel, a people of God, the giver of life who would not let our feet give way, the maker of miracles for us against Pharaoh, of signs and portents in the land of Egypt, the one who brought our people, Israel, from its midst to enduring freedom.
Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi kamocha nedor b'kodesh, nor tehilot osei vele, malchutecha ra'uvanecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, zeili haynu ve'ameru, Adonai imach le'olam va'ed. Ve'nemar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov, uge'alo miyad chazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai, God Yisrael.
On page 46, have mercy upon me, O God, as befits your faithfulness. In keeping with your abundant compassion, blot out my transgressions. Wash me thoroughly of my iniquity and purify me of my sin, for I recognize my transgressions and am ever conscious of my sin. Please rise for the tefillah.
To
Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imatenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanara, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chastei Avot Behimahot, Umevi Geula Livnei B'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava. Zochreinu lechaim, melech hafetz b'chaim, v'kotvenu b'sefer hachayim, l'ma'ancha Elohim chayim. Melech ozer u'moshiach u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Bezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Nechayeh hakol atah rav lehoshia, Morid hatah. Mechakel chayim bechesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somich noflim verofei cholim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato lishenei afar, michamocha ba'al gevurot, umidom melech, melech memit umechayeh, umatzmiach Yeshua, michamocha, harachamim, zocher yetzurab, l'chaim berachamim, beneman atah, l'hachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Nechayeh hakol.
On page 49, Tefillah is a journey from the God of the ancients to my rock and my redeemer. On most nights you stand on the holy summit of Tefillah and see before you a land that calls out for redemption, for healing, for peace, a world that needs you. Kol Nidrei is different. Tefillah tonight is an inward journey that takes you deep within yourself, pierces you to the core. You stand on the holy summit of this Tefillah and see before you the land within, a weary soul yearning to be forgiven, longing to be loved. You may be seated, and we'll take a few moments for silent prayer and reflection.
Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie.
At the heart of our liturgy, all throughout Yom Kippur, are prayers of vidui, of confession. And a feature that we notice is that for every transgression, for every way we miss the mark, we always share it in the first person plural. It's not I, it's not you, it's we. And over the course of the next 24 hours, we will share vidui either in the long form or the short form several times. Tonight we will share the long form. We first continue on page 83.
When I was young and learned the alphabet, life was open to me. A was full of aspiration. B was for beauty. C for confidence. And D for dreams. And so on through the list. No fewer than 26 opportunities, 26 possibilities. And yet I fear that with the passage of time, I've squandered them, creating instead A's of apathy, B's of brusqueness, and C's of coarseness. Help me then to return to that innocence. Let the letters be letters once again, and let them rise to the heavens and form into words that you know I wish to say.
Our God and God of all generations, may our prayers reach your presence. And when we turn to you, do not be indifferent. Adonai, we are arrogant and stubborn, claiming to be blameless and free of sin. In truth, we have stumbled and strayed. We have done wrong. Page 86. For these sins, our God, we ask forgiveness. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you deliberately and by mistake, and harm we have caused in your world through the words of our mouths. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you by hardening our hearts, and harm we have caused in your world through careless speech. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you through lies and deceit, and harm we have caused in your world through gossip and rumor. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you by judging others unfairly, and harm we have caused in your world through disrespect to parents and teachers. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you through insincere apologies, and harm we have caused in your world by mistreating a friend or neighbor. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you through violence and abuse, and harm we have caused in your world through dishonesty in business. For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you openly and secretly, and harm we have caused in your world by losing self-control. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you through sexual immorality, and harm we have caused in your world through consumption of food and drink. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you by giving in to our hostile impulses, and harm we have caused in your world through greed and exploitation. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you through cynicism and scorn, and harm we have caused in your world through arrogant behavior. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you by hating without cause, and harm we have caused in your world through offensive speech. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you with a slanderous tongue, and harm we have caused in your world through a selfish or petty spirit. For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement.
May all kulam elos lichot selach lanu mechal lanu kaper lanu ve'al kulam elos lichot slach lanu mechal lanu selach lanu mechal lanu kaper lanu.
For those who have a machzor at home, we invite you to reflect on the readings between pages 91 and 95. For those who don't, many of these readings will appear on the screen. We ask you to either pray silently or please read these words as they pass on the screen. We continue on page 98 with Shema Kolenu.
Shema Kolenu Adonai V'kabel berachamim, berachamim, uvratzon, et tefillatenu. Hashivenu Adonai elecha, Hashivenu elecha v'nashuva, Chadesh yameinu, yameinu kekedem. ורצון את
Once upon a time, there was a family from a small village known as Chelm, where the people were very nice, but lacked common sense. One day, the family took a trip to the big city, and they were amazed at all that they saw: crowded streets, stores, and shops as far as the eye could see. After a long and full day, the family settled in for the night, and they were sound asleep when they were awoken by a loud commotion, the sound of beating drums. The parents jumped out of bed and hurried downstairs to find out what was happening. The innkeeper explained that there was a fire somewhere in the city. When a fire breaks out, she told the startled parents, people bang on the drums, and pretty soon the fire is out. The parents were amazed. They returned to Chelm and told everyone how they fight fires in the city. When a fire breaks out, people bang on drums, the mother said, and soon the fire is out. Upon hearing this, the mayor ordered drums for every household. Now, several weeks later, a fire broke out in the village of Chelm. The first person who discovered it started banging on his drum. Then another person heard his drum and started banging on hers. And pretty soon, all of the townsfolk were banging on their drums. The fire, however, continued to rage. Homes and businesses burned while all the people kept furiously banging their drums. A visitor from the big city was visiting Chelm and was staying at the local inn. He went outside and couldn't believe what he saw. Homes and stores engulfed in flames, and the people were just banging on their drums. He asked one of the villagers what was happening. She explained, "We heard this works in your city. We were told that whenever there is a fire, people bang their drums, and soon after that, the fire is out." The visitor was horrified. "Do you think that by beating drums and doing nothing else, you can put out a fire? The drums only sound an alarm so that people will wake up, get water, and put the fire out." Friends, on this holy night of Kol Nidrei, fires burn throughout our nation and our world. Massive wildfires, hurricanes, drought, and floods that strongly implicate climate change in California, Oregon, the Gulf Coast, among many other places in the United States. 200,000 American dead from COVID-19, and still no coordinated federal response. A disproportionate impact of the virus on the poor and people of color that lay bare healthcare disparities. Peaceful protests that turned violent because a small group intent on damaging property, police violence against protesters, or outside provocateurs. Grave concern for our democracy, a widening gulf between the right and the left, and diminishing interest in finding common ground. Fears that tens or even hundreds of thousands of people will have tremendous difficulty voting, or whose votes may not be counted, resulting in election season chaos unlike anything our country has ever seen. Rising anti-Semitism, random attacks against Hasidic Jews on the streets of Brooklyn, graffiti painted on walls of synagogues, and epithets hurled at Jews. Our nation is on fire, and we see the flames. And I ask you, what are we called to be? Drummers or firefighters? Let's first be gentle and forgiving with ourselves. We are, after all, navigating a pandemic. We can't fight every fire. We do our best, we beat on drums and hope that others will respond. We don't have time. Work is more challenging than ever. The chaos of online schooling remains disruptive. We are physically and emotionally exhausted. We are so worried about ourselves and our families that we can't muster additional energy to fight the fires. We'd love to, but we only have so much time. Or we sleep through it. If we don't watch the news, we might miss the flames. Many of us are not experiencing much distress, so we may be less attuned. Some in our Shir Me family have been affected directly by the pandemic and continue to suffer. But a majority of those with whom I speak regularly have not. In general, healthcare workers are doing better than they were in April and May, and the trauma of those months have abated. Most of us, not all, most of us are financially stable. We have good health care and enough space to quarantine if necessary. We are less affected by the troubles raging elsewhere. Demonstrations in Newtown are peaceful. We are inconvenienced, maybe bored, or frazzled. However, most in our community are no worse today than they were 6 months ago. Of course, we could be better. We want to be better. It's hard and stressful, but we are not suffering like so many others. Now, that does not mean that we are not worried or scared. We keep an eye on the fires. We consume our preferred news sources, talk to our like-minded friends, and post the latest outrage, injustice, or response on social media. We bang our drums loudly so that others will hear them, but we leave the hard work of putting out the fires to others. For some, it's all they can do. Others are fighting fires on the streets or calling their elected representatives, working to get out the vote, and advocating for justice at every turn. Most of us, including me, fall somewhere in the middle. Some days we bring the water, other days the drum. Some days we just sleep in. At some point, we will all need to respond and put out the fires. We will need to discover a way to fight the fires together. Banging drums is no longer an option. Sleeping is no longer an option. The time to act is now, before it's too late. Our patriarch Abraham acted. He invited weary travelers into his home and later advocated to save the wicked people of Sodom and Gomorrah. When he noticed something amiss, he did something about it. There's a midrash that tells about a man traveling from one place to the next who comes upon a birah doleket, a palace that was alit in flames. He looked around the burning palace, and the owner was nowhere to be found. The man was perplexed. At the sight of the burning palace, he wondered aloud, is it possible that a palace lacks an owner to look after it? At that moment, the owner peeked out and said, I am the owner. That same midrash compares Abraham to this traveler. While trying to figure out the mysteries of the universe, Abraham wondered aloud, is it possible that the world is without a guide? Meaning, could the world be like a palace on fire and lack an owner to look after it? When Abraham finished his thought, God peeked out and said to him, I am the owner, the master of the universe. This midrash begs the question, if the palace is alit in flames, if the world is on fire, and the owner of the palace is home, if God is looking over it, why isn't something being done? Well, because when the world is on fire, God leaves it up to us to put it out. What did Abraham see in this birah doleket, this palace alit in flames? He saw both hope and destruction. Some suggest that the palace was not on fire, but rather filled with the light of God, casting a bright glow of hope and promise. Others suggest that the palace was engulfed in flames, slowly burning to the ground, with nary a person to be found willing to put out the fire. Rabbi Cheryl Peretz describes the first image as a beautiful world. God is the creator whose powerful light shines beauty and magnificence through acts of loving kindness, justice, and peace. In the second image, the world is on fire, engulfed in evil and destruction. As 5781 begins and this difficult year of 2020 continues, we see our Bira Doleket, this palace we call our world and our nation, engulfed in destructive, all-consuming flames. Who is fighting it? Certainly not our leaders. Some are even adding fuel to the fire. And that is why we can't rely solely on our leadership to put out the flames. We must come together and do it ourselves. As we begin this year, we must work together to quench the destructive flames and transform them into powerful energy that fuels healing and restoration, justice and peace. The Midrash about Abraham and the palace alit in flames reminds us that when the world is aflame and God feels absent, God is still there saying, I am the owner. I am the master of the universe. It's up to you, God says, to put out the fire. We fight it with quenching waters of justice, righteousness, and compassion, which transform destructive fire into magnificent light. That is our responsibility as stewards of this complicated and imperfect world that God created for us. Many palaces remain alit as their flames inch slowly towards one another. If the fires meet, it might be too much to contain. The owners of the palaces need our help. We cannot be beating our drums as we watch the palaces burn to the ground. Rather, we need to respond bravely and be vessels of God's light that emerge from the disaster. These fires remind us that our world can be magnificent and glorious in one moment, ugly and evil in another. It requires a certain outlook to discover beauty and wonder when so much looks bleak. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, a leading figure in the civil rights movement and the Vietnam protests in the 1960s, another turbulent period in the life of our nation, Heschel helps us better understand this palace alit. He writes, one may look upon the world with enthusiasm and absorb its wonder and radiant glory. One may also see and be shocked by its ugliness and evil. The prophet Isaiah heard the angels proclaim, the whole earth is full of God's glory. Job, however, maintained that the earth is given to the power of the wicked. Beauty and ugliness both prevail in our world, and we live in the midst of it all. The destruction is easy to see. However, when we look closely, we see the light of wonder and radiant glory replacing the flames of destruction. We see this light in the frontline physicians, nurses, pharmacists, medical technicians, chaplains, and hospital workers who continue to put themselves at risk as they care for the ill and infirm. We see it in the teachers who have reinvented the art and craft of classroom instruction, online and in person, and often at the same time. We see it in the invisible workforce who harvests our crops, supplies our food chain, and transports goods across the country to our front doors. We see it in all those whose jobs can't be done remotely and don't get paid if they don't show up. We see it in the writers, musicians, and actors who are discovering new ways to bring joy to our lives. We see idealistic young people, black, white, and brown, who gather in city centers and suburban corners, amplifying a rallying cry that Black lives matter, not more than other lives, but as much as any other life. We see it in the masses of volunteers, including a team from Shirami, working for fair elections, working to get out the vote, and ensuring that every vote is counted. These people are striving to make voter suppression a relic of history, and we'd love for you to join our Shir Ami voter engagement team. These people, essential workers and optimistic volunteers, are God's emissaries, casting a hopeful and positive glow on a world and nation that is on fire. Rabbi Peretz teaches, in the light, God can be beautiful and good and is the creator who makes it all possible. From the depths of pain and challenge, God remains a source of hope, a source of inspiration and a source of comfort, reminding us that the impossible can be possible, the fear can become hope, and the darkness can become lighter. As we count these early days of 5781, may we respond to the fires. When we see flames, may we quench them with waters of justice, righteousness, compassion, and peace. May we then bear God's light and cast magnificent and beautiful rays of light unto a world that is in desperate need of healing and repair. May we respond to the beating drums with wisdom, courage, and faith. May we heed the words of the prophet Amos, who preached, "Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream." Let us use these waters to put out the fires and transform the flames into the light and spirit of God. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be God's will. Our service continues on page 107. We are insolent, but you are compassionate and gracious. We are stubborn and stiff-necked, but you are slow to anger. We persist in doing wrong, but you are the essence of mercy. Our days are a shadow passing by, but you are existence itself. Your years never ending.
Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun, Erech Apayim V'Rav Chesed V'Emet, Notzeh Chesed La'alafim, Nosei Avon V'Pesha V'Chata V'Nakeh.
We continue on page 112 with Avinu Malkeinu.
Avinu
Malkeinu, ha'er lanu et derech chayenu. Avinu Malkeinu, illumine for us the path of our life. Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we find the strength to take the road less traveled by? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we come to know the purpose of our existence? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we learn not to live life in vain? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we get out of our indifference? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we distinguish between truth and falsehood? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we find the answers to our questions? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we gird ourselves with strength to seek answers? Avinu Malkeinu, be gracious to us, answer us, empower us, and give us courage, for the answers are both in you and with you.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatonu lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu,
How wonderful it is to be able to hear our extraordinary choir this most difficult year. Thank you, Cantor Kolbrenner and Eric and Rini for putting that, among other videos, together. It's my pleasure to invite President of Shirami, John Stevens, to share some announcements.
L'Shana Tova, Gamar Hatima Tova from the Shirami Board. I'm John Stevens, President of Shirami, and we're delighted to celebrate these high holy days with you, our community, friends, and guests. As always, Rabbi, thank you for your provocative thoughts. We have much to consider. Cantor, Rini Perlstein, Eric Schnitzer, our virtual choir, we are blessed with the beautiful music you created remotely, but always very harmoniously. And to Nicole Firestone, we are so grateful for your beautiful visual animation and assembly of our remote choir. We are blessed by our congregational readers who have enriched our service just by their participation and involvement. And as always, I'd be remiss to not recognize Debbie Rosenthal, Ellen Rawitz, Michael Smolin, and Ashley Levy for creating our beautiful photo montage accompanying Jason Calloway's Kol Nidrei. Tomorrow morning at 9:30 is the Zoom service for families with young children. If you haven't registered yet online, please do so. And at 10:30, our streamed Yom Kippur service with virtual choir and sermon by Rabbi Briskin. You'll need to access through the Shirami website. Please drop off any and all non-perishable items for our annual High Holy Day food drive. The bins will be by the office entrance through Sunday, October 18th. They'll be available 9 to 3 on weekdays and Sundays during religious school. You can sign up online to help us sort every week because we want to do that safely. Space is limited. And please remember to always sign the Brit Kihila so we can join together. We wish you tomorrow a very easy and meaningful fast, and may each of us be inscribed for blessing in the book of life. L'Shana Tova.
Thank you, John. I appreciate your words and your greetings. Just a couple of additional notes. For a special word of thanks to all in our community who have renewed their commitment to Shirami for this next year. We're very grateful for your support. And for those who haven't yet, we hope that you will help us to keep Shirami operating the way that we have been doing so through this pandemic. We really rely on your support, and we're very grateful. And also, you'll be getting information fairly soon about participating in our annual fundraising appeal, the Circle of Giving. We hope that you will contribute to that as well to, again, provide some of the supplemental funds that our congregation needs. Tomorrow morning when you join us on the live stream, we hope that any of the glitches that we had tonight will be resolved. However, just know that you can always go to Facebook, and also just pay attention to what is live streamed. What is live streamed tomorrow is the 10:30 service, and then also 4:30 Yisker. Everything else throughout the course of the day is on Zoom with that same link. whether it's and different links for the children and for the adults, but all of our learning sessions tomorrow afternoon as well, which I'll talk more about tomorrow, will be on our Zoom link, as well as our concluding service of Ne'ilah, so that when we conclude our service, we can be together face to face. So again, a Shana Tova and a Gemar Chatima Tova. On page 120. We stand as one on this night of remembrance, united in grief, united in loss, united in the power of a promise. God has made us, God will sustain us. We give praise to this life and rise up together to renew our strength. Our thoughts turn to our loved ones whom death has taken from us in recent days, and those who died at this season in years past. Our hearts open as well to the wider circles of loss in our community and wherever grief touches the human family. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be a blessing in this new year and always. Please rise for Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, ba'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chaye chon v'yomei chon, v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lamei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudesha b'richu. Le'ela u'le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran v'yalma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May the source of peace bestow peace on all who mourn, and may we be a source of comfort to all who are bereaved. Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'yimeru. Amen.
We conclude our Kol Nidrei service tonight with the singing of Hashivenu as we return again to the essence of who we are and who we need to be this year.
Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha, v'nashuva, Chodesh, Chodesh, Yameinu kekedem. Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha, v'nashuva, Chodesh, Chodesh, Yameinu kekedem.
L'shana tova tikatevu v'techatemu. May you be inscribed and sealed for a good year, a year of blessing, hope, and promise. I wish everyone at Tzom Kal a meaningful fast and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning.